call the meeting to order. So this is the regular meeting of the Township Council for the month of July. And I'd like to welcome everyone here. It isn't very often we have such a large delegation.
Who brought the popcorn?
Thank you very much for coming. The second item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Deputy Mayor Taylor.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Smale, that council approves the agenda as presented.
Thank you very much. Council, you've heard the motion. Those in favor? Motion is carried. And the next item on the agenda, item 3, is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Are there any disclosures? I see 2. I'll go to the far end. Councilor Smale.
Thank you. I have 8D and E. Both items are in contrary with my husband working with one of the companies. So.
And you filled up the
Absolutely, yeah.
required form, submitted the form?
Yeah, all done.
Okay, and Deputy Mayor Taylor?
I have a number 7C, which is Community Development Committee minutes, as I mentioned, is our property. 11A, the conveyance of the unopened road net allowance to Winans as they are purchasing our property. And E, the gift of property, 11E, as it is my mother's neighboring land.
Okay, so you filled out the forms?
I did.
Okay, and Councilor Barrett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 11D, the finance agreement with RBC for the JRDR drain loan. I filed a disclosure of pecuniary interest with the deputy clerk as my mother and father-in-law are respondents with the Drainage Tribunal for the matter concerning the JRDR drain.
Okay, thank you very much. So, just for the benefit of the folks that are in the gallery, law requires now that if there's a pecuniary interest affecting you directly or indirectly, has to be publicly declared, and the person who's declaring it has to file a form with the clerk, and that form is kept on letters. Keeps everything open and transparent. When we get to those items on the agenda, you'll see that the folks that have declared the interest will pull back from the table. They're not required to leave the meeting, they're just required not to participate in the discussion or to vote. So they'll generally just pull back from the table.
I missed 8C, which is the one-way traffic analysis, although it's just an information item, it is
Okay.
the same street that my mother's on.
Okay, there's no,
Uh-huh.
probably be no discussion.
No,
No vote.
on that.
Okay, so I'm at item number 4 on the agenda. Item number 4 on the agenda is delegations and presentations, and we have none this evening. And so I'm moving to item number 5 on the agenda. Item number 5 on the agenda is the approval of minutes of previous council meetings. And so, first of all, the meeting of June the 25th, Councilor Smale.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Taylor, that municipal council receives and approves the minutes of the regular council meeting dated June 25th, 2018.
Okay, so this is the meeting of June the 25th. Motion's on the table. Those in favor, first of all, we'll deal with business arising later. Are there any errors or omissions in the minutes? Hearing none, those in favor? Motion is carried, minutes approved and circulated. And then I'm going to the special meeting of July the 18th, Councilor Barrett.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Morrell, the municipal council receives and approves the minutes of the special council meeting dated July 18th, 2018.
Thank you very much. Are there any errors or omissions to be noted? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. And so now I'm on item 6 on the agenda, which is business arising from either of those meeting minutes. So does anyone have any business arising? I had a couple of things noted, but they're included in the CAO's report, so we'll leave it go until then. So hearing none, no business arising, I'm prepared to move then to item number 7 on the agenda. Item number 7 on the agenda is council approval of a number of committee meetings that were held during the past month. First is the library board meeting of May the 22nd, Councilor Morrell.
Yes, moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Barrett, that the municipal council receives the minutes of the public library board meeting dated May 22nd, 2018.
Thank you very much. Motion is on the floor. Discussion, if any? Questions? Hearing none. Those in favor? Motion is carried. And then the Port Management Committee of June the 20th, Deputy Mayor Taylor.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Smale, that municipal council receives the minutes of the Port Management Committee meeting dated June 20th, 2018.
Motion is on the floor. Discussion, if any. Hearing none, those in favor? Motion is carried. And 7C, the Community Development Committee meeting of July the 3rd. Councillor Smale.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Deputy Mayor Taylor, that the municipal council receives and approves the minutes of the Community Development Committee meeting dated July 3rd, 2018.
Can you change the seconder on that, please?
Oh,
The conflict.
okay, well, I'll pass it to Councillor Barrett. Would you second it, please? Thank you very much. So the motion is moved by Councillor Smale, seconded by Councillor Barrett. Discussion, if any? Hearing none, those in favor? Motion is carried. And moving then to 11D, the Committee of the Whole Admin Finance Committee meeting of July the 9th. Councillor Barrett.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Morelli, the municipal council receives and approves the minutes of Committee of the Whole Administration and Finance meeting dated July 9th, 2018.
Thank you very much. The motion is on the floor. Discussion, questions? Councillor Smale.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a follow-up question with item 6A on page 2 of 5. Just inquiring to see if that letter had been sent out in support of the Canada Post. Awesome. Thank you. That's all I have.
And just following up on that, if I could, to the Deputy Clerk, could I get a copy in my box, please? Is there a copy filed in the Mayor's Correspondence book?
50-50 chance it's getting pretty overflowing.
Yeah, I went over the signature of the CAO?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I could just get a copy. And anything else arising from that meeting? Hearing none, I'm about to call the question on the motion. Those in favor? Motion is carried. And then 7E is the minutes of the Recreation Advisory Committee held on July the 10th. Deputy Mayor Taylor.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Smale, that municipal council receives and approves the minutes of the Recreation Advisory Committee meeting dated July 10th, 2018.
Okay, the motion is on the floor. I'm gonna call first for errors and omissions because I have one, and I'd like to see it corrected. And the one that I'd like to refer to is on page 2 of 3. And on page 2 of 3, under Cardinal Pool accessibility, on the third sentence, many different solutions were discussed, including cement steps, a ladder with a longer rung. I believe that the word should be lower rung. The point is that the existing ladder has 3 steps up, and what it needs to have is 4 steps up, so the word should be lower rung. I'd like to see that error corrected. And then on page 2 of 3, again, under the healthy living, there was a discussion about the cormorant control program that we undertook a year or so ago. And moved by Cameron, seconded by Holmes, that committee recommends that council reinstate a trapper to control cormorant population in order to keep their population in control to help protect property. And I see that well, I guess that recommendation is not actually coming forward here tonight, but I would refer that to staff because we did manage to protect property, our property during that little program. And for the early part of this season, the cormorants were not present, but now I see that they have started to return, and they have one tree that was a beautiful tree at the beginning of the season, which is now in the early stages of complete destruction. So I'll just leave that on the table for now, and then I'll call a question on the motion.
I have some questions, Mr.
Go ahead.
Just following up with the cormorant, through you, Mr. Mayor, will that come forward to CDC for the cormorant conversation? No?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the cormorant control is actually a budgeted item. And I had delegated the emergency matter to Mike Spencer to deal with, so unfortunately, I'm not able to answer too many questions about that, but my understanding was that Mr. Spencer was in touch with Mr. Courtney, and I'm not sure why the work is not being done, so.
Okay, so there has been some follow-through?
I'll have to follow through.
Okay.
And
All
I
right.
just have one more through you,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, maybe the deputy or actually through the staff. I just wanted to, I don't recall a motion coming forward for the work on the pool ladder. Did I totally blank that out of my mind? Was there a motion or was that looked at as general housekeeping?
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor, it's considered a housekeeping matter. Staff has discussed it. We do have a supply problem, if I can put it that way. The commercial grade ladders that have 4 rungs on them are measured in such a way that the bottom rung rests on the pool floor, which is probably not going to be helpful. And unfortunately, a custom ladder is not going to be available in time for this pool season, so we're still trying to source something suitable.
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to receive these minutes, receive and approve the minutes. That's the motion on the floor. About to call the question, those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. All right, and until then I'm on 7F, which is the Committee of the Whole meeting for Public Service, Environmental Services, Councillor Barrett.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Morello, the municipal council receives and approves the minutes of Committee of the Whole, Public Works, Environmental Services, and Facilities meeting dated July 16th, 2018.
Thank you very much. I'm about to call a question on this motion to receive these minutes. Discussion, if any? Hearing none, I'm about to call a question. Those in favor? That motion is carried. And just for the benefit of those here tonight, you might want to check the minutes of that meeting. One of the issues that council is dealing with is how to handle the situation when Highway 401 is closed, specifically as it relates to Cedar Grove Road and Browsville Road, and as a matter of fact, as far north as County Road 21, because we are experiencing a problem of heavy trucks on those streets when 401 is closed, and during one of the recent closures, we actually closed Cedar Grove Road with our own forces and our own people to try to keep the heavy truck traffic off that. We're getting a fair amount of pressure from folks in that area. I just mentioned that as a point of interest in case anybody is here is on either one of those roads. So I'm moving on to item 8 on the agenda. Item 8 on the agenda is action and information items that are coming up from the committees in the form of recommendations from the committees. 8A, the 2017 Township Deficit Report. Deputy Mayor Taylor.
Move by myself, second by Councillor Smale, that municipal council approve the allocation of the 2017 deficit from expenditure reserves shown below, as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, Administration and Finance.
Okay, I don't see the number on the paper here, so I'm just gonna ask if through the CAO, if the treasurer would just remind us and the gallery of the amount that we're talking about here, the total gross amount.
The total deficit was 43,375.
375?
Correct.
Okay, so just before I call the question, just for the benefit of the folks in the gallery, Township runs about a $7 million a year budget total, and the deficit for this year, cash deficit, if you want to look at it from that point of view, is about 43,000. But when council builds their budget, they have a number of reserve accounts, but I call them operating reserve accounts because, for example, we have a special little account that we call snow plowing, and we put a few dollars into that each year or so, that if our actual budget goes over on snow plowing and it has a deficit, we take from that account to offset the deficit. The long and the short of this motion is to transfer monies from 5 of those different accounts and basically wipe out the township deficit. So on our audited financial statements, we have a 0 deficit for the year that ended December the 31st, 2017. Are there any questions concerning this motion from councillors at the table? Hearing none, I'm about to call the question. Those in favor of the motion, please signify. Motion is carried. This was fully discussed, by the way, at the Admin Finance Committee meeting. So now I'm moving on to 8B, which is the 2017 Water and Wastewater Surplus Deficit Report. Councillor Barrett.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Merrill. The municipal council directs staff to transfer $20,952.42 from the consolidated reserve account to fund the overall water and wastewater deficit, and transfer the surplus amount of $1,006.81 to the Environmental Services Low Lift Reserve as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, Administration and Finance.
Okay, and this is the same kind of situation, except we're talking water and sewer budgets, which are separate from the normal budget. So, discussion if any? Hearing none, about to call the question. Those in favor? Motion is carried. And now I'm on 8C, which is the Lambert Street one-way traffic analysis. Councillor Morel.
Yes, moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Barrett, that municipal council maintain two-way traffic on Lambert Street in Cardinal as recommended by Committee of the Whole, Public Works, Environmental Services, and Facilities.
Okay, the motion is on the floor. Discussion if any? Hearing none. Just for the benefit of the folks here, we did have a request that we changed Lambert Street from two ways to one way. Staff did an extensive report on the street, and their recommendation was that we maintain it as a two-way street. Those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. And I'm on then item 8D, which is the asphalt tender award. Deputy Mayor Taylor.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Smale, that.
Oh, yeah, guess I should have seconded.
Councillor Barrett seconded.
We just sign our
Like
life away.
just
when
sign
we-
it like away.
Okay, so it's moved by Deputy Mayor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Barrett. And motion has already been read.
No.
Oh, it hasn't? Okay, I'll let you read your motion.
That municipal council award the asphalt repair and paving ECPW 1807 to Coco Paving Inc. in the amount of $52,432 plus HST, and to authorize the Director of Operations to execute any contract documents as recommended by Committee of the Whole, Public Works, Environmental Services, and Facilities.
So again, just by way of explanation, there's about 20-some little spots in the township where the staff has getting the company to do some minor repairs, but when they're all put together, and we tendered them out in order to get the better price for the whole package, and the tender amount is requires that the motion come to council. Further discussion here, if any? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. And I believe through the CAO to the Director of Operations, that was to start fairly soon?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that should be completed within the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, I know I've had a lot of people they see the prep work that's being done. I think Kiefer Street is one, and they're wondering when are we going to get our pavement, so we can tell them it'll start soon. All right, and so now I'm on item 8 on the agenda, and item 8 on the agenda concerns the action and information items. Oh, I just did that, didn't I? Oh, I got 8E.
8E.
Okay, so 8E is the Port West Uplands 2 Development Capital Budget. Councillor Morel.
Yes, moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Barrett, that municipal council, number 1, amend the Port of Johnstown 2008 capital budget to increase the capital spending amount limit for the West Uplands 2 development project from $500,000 to $610,000. And secondly, let the additional $110,000 be reallocated from the fire alarm system on the Port of Johnstown 2018 capital budget as recommended by the Port Management Committee.
Thank you very much. Motion is on the floor. Discussion, if any? Hearing none. Those in favor? And that motion is carried. And so now I'm on item 9 on the agenda, and item 9 on the agenda is correspondence. Councillor Smale, I believe you have that.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Taylor, that municipal council receive the correspondence listing for the following dates as previously circulated: June 25th and July 13th, both of 2018.
Thank you very much. The motion is on the floor. Those in favor, please signify. Motion is carried. And again, just as way of explanation, any letter that's sent to the mayor or the mayor and council, or sometimes to the staff, is, we make up packages, the staff makes up packages, and they circulate that correspondence to us in packages, and any member of council is free to take any item that has come in one of those packages and have it brought onto the agenda of the next council meeting. So all correspondence that's directed to the township, or to the mayor and council, eventually gets seen in one of those packages. And item number 10 on the agenda is approval of municipal disbursements, and I believe Councillor Morel, you have that one.
Yes, I do. Again, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Barrett that municipal council approves payment of municipal invoices circulated and dated as follows. Report dated July 3rd, 2018, $322,656.11. Report dated July 16th, 2018 of $30,261.60. Report dated July 18th of 2018 of a total $383,990.59 for an overall total of $736,908.30.
Okay, the motion is on the floor. Are there any questions with the disbursement sheets? Hearing none, I'm about to call the question. Those in favor? Motion is carried. And just by way, again, of interest, so the disbursement sheets are circulated to council on the Thursday, or the Friday prior to the council meeting. Council has the opportunity to review all the items on the disbursement sheet. We kind of regard this as the third or fourth level of financial control. First level of financial control, of course, is the budget. And then the second level of control is the budget to actual statements that we get from the staff once every quarter. The fourth level of control, if I can put it that way, is the disbursement sheets, which are always approved in public, reviewed by council. And then the last level of control is when the mayor or the deputy mayor signs the checks, and no checks leave the office until one of our signatures is on those checks. So that's just a little explanation of how the process works. Don't think that we take your money lightly, because we don't. And so now I'm on item number 11 on the agenda. And item number 11 on the agenda is a number of bylaws that are coming forth here tonight. And just so you understand the process, our procedural bylaw requires that all bylaws are given first and second reading. If the bylaw receives unanimous approval by all members of council on first and second reading, then it proceeds to third reading at the same meeting. If it fails to receive unanimous approval on the first and second reading, which we do them together, if it fails to receive unanimous approval on the first and second reading, then the third reading is delayed by 1 month. So, I'm calling the various bylaws, and I see that there are 6 of them. Bylaw 11A, to stop up, close, and convey an unopened road allowance to Winans. Councillor Smale.
Thank you. Just before I call this, I'm wondering, with the Johnstown ATV Club presence and information that they brought forward, I'm wondering, do we amend this bylaw to state that we support them with that, or do we look under council's requires a notice of motion for that? I'm just not sure what the best option is.
Okay, well, in response to that, I'll put it this way, and I spoke to Mr. Lumsden prior to the meeting. So before this came to the committee meeting, it's recommended by one of the committees, I can't remember which. Which one?
It would be Public Works.
Public Works. Before it came to Public Works, staff had already executed the process that's required under the Municipal Act to stop up, close, and convey an unopened road allowance. So we have executed fully our responsibilities under the Municipal Act to do what is being proposed by this bylaw. So
best option to support the ATV Club in the altercations that they're going to need to do for their trails would be under council inquiries or motion, notice of motion?
I would think so,
All right,
yes.
then I will go ahead and read that. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Barrett, that the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to stop, up, close, and convey an unopened road allowance between Lot 10 and 11, Concession 5, and this shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
Okay, first and second reading. Discussion, if any? Hearing none, those in favor? Okay, those in favor?
Sorry.
Okay, all right, so the motion receives, first and second reading receives unanimous for approval. It can proceed to third reading.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Barrett, that the bylaw to stop, close, and convey an unopened road allowance between lot 10 and 11, concession 5, be now read a third time, finally passed, signed, and sealed in number 2018-45.
Thank you very much. Motion to approve third reading, those in favor?
Question.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So with regards to the letter that we received from Mr. Lumsden from the ATV Club last week and in your conversation with him, do you know if there's been any communication with then the new owner of the property between the ATV Club and the organization?
Through the chair, and I'll direct the question to the CAO. Do we know if that communication between the ATV Club and Mr. Winans has taken place? Not that it normally would,
Not that I'm aware of.
no. So I think that's,
Okay, yeah, so I just wonder if if we know that the private property owner is going to preclude the access or restrict access to their property for that purpose or not, because I believe there's private property use in my education that I've received from the ATV Club on other occasions, is that they operate on private property with permission and responsible land use. So I'm just wondering if that's been explored, but in absence of that information and knowing where we're at with the conveyance, stop up and closure of the road allowance, that Councillor Smales' notice of motion will have my support for making sure that the ATV Club, while they try and resolve that issue of whether or not they can continue in concert with the property owner to use that piece, that I'll support giving them access to get around so that it doesn't break their trail if they need to use our roads.
okay, now, again, just for the benefit of the council, and I know that you've all read your briefing notes and your packages, but in the package, there was a map of their trail network. And the alternate route to that existing unopened road allowance is located about a mile west, runs perfectly parallel, not in very good shape. I understand from Mr. Lumsden that the alternate route is not in very good shape. But again, I'm assuming that the ATV Club has some ability to bypass, if I can put it that way, bad spots in the road. And they also have the option of coming to us, asking for permission to approve the trail network in specific locations. So I don't really know what Councillor Smale is going to bring up in the way of notices of motion.
Neither do I.
Oh, okay.
I'm twisting right now.
Okay, all right. So I don't really know whether I've addressed your question or not.
Well, I guess, Mr. Mayor, thanks for attempting. My question was just whether or not they've been in contact with them. But we, in this term of council, we've worked with this club to help enable them to have a viable trail network, and it involves the use of some municipal roads. And I received very little negative feedback from members of the community about their use of the roads, and so my support for Councillor Smales' yet to be crystallized notice of motion is that we do what we can. If there's a proposal that comes forward from this group prior to our next meeting of council, that we're able to support them not breaking their trail.
Okay, I understand your concern. Okay, so having said that, anybody else want to weigh in on this issue? Before I call the motion on third reading? Okay, so I'm about to call the motion on third reading then.
Can we have a recorded vote on this, please, Mr. Mayor?
Okay, recorded vote requested by Councillor Morrell, and I will do that. No further discussion, I'm about to call the question. So, Councillor Barrett, how do you vote?
Yay.
And Councillor Morrell?
Yay.
And Councillor Smale?
Yay.
and Deputy Mayor Taylor has declared a conflict. Dismarket, conflict declared, and I'll vote yea as well. And so the motion is carried, and it basically is carried, well, it's the third reading, so it's passed. It's passed. Okay, and so now I'm on to item 11B, which is a site plan control agreement for Shoreline Rail Group. Councilor Morel, I believe you have that one.
Yes, moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Barrett that the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to authorize the execution of a site place control agreement with Shoreline Rail Group, and this shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
Thank you very much. The motion is on the table. First and second reading, discussion if any. Okay, hearing no discussion, those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. It can proceed to third reading.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Barrett that a bylaw to authorize the execution of the site place control agreement with Shoreline Rail Group be now read a third time, finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 13-5046.
Okay, and I think it's a site plan control agreement, and we do have already a site plan agreement with the group, and now they're asking for an amendment. We've agreed to the amendment. This amendment will see an expansion of the Jones Rail Yard, which is the rail yard located, you can't actually see it, just west of the County Road 2 rail bridge. And now this will be phase 2 of their development of that rail yard. So, this is now third reading. Go ahead.
What are their next steps, do we know, before that they can actually get the in terms of MOE or something done?
Yeah, they're fully within our official plan and fully within our zoning bylaw.
Yes,
And this is just additional trackage plus, I believe, 1 or 2 buildings.
if I may, Mr. Mayor, this is actually the first site plan control agreement. The initial work that they did under phase 1 didn't involve any building permits, so we didn't need the site plan control agreement until now. They are constructing and implement a shed. We will see an amendment to this site plan control agreement, I would think in fairly short order because of the Greenergy development.
Right. Thank you very much for, I thought we had, I forgot, they didn't need one for the first initial phase, right? Okay, so third reading, about to call the question. Those in favor of third reading? Motion is carried, thank you. And so now I'm on 11C, which is the asset management policy. Councilor Barrett.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Morel, that the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to adopt an asset management strategy policy, and this shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
Okay, again, coming forward from committee study. Discussion, if any? Hearing none. Those in favor of first and second reading? It's carried unanimously. It can proceed to third reading.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Morel, that a bylaw to adopt an asset management strategy policy be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, and sealed, and numbered 2018-47.
Motion for third reading. Discussion. Hearing none. Those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. And item 11D, a finance agreement with RBC for the JRDR drain load. Councilor Smale.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Taylor. The mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute a finance agreement with the Royal Bank of Canada for the James, Riley, DeWitt, Richard municipal drain loan, and this shall constitute first and second reading thereof. Sure, I said every one of those names wrong.
Oh, you got them all right.
Did I?
Okay, so up for first and second reading. Discussion, if any? Hearing none. Those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. You can proceed with third reading.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Taylor, that a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a finance agreement with the Royal Bank of Canada for the James, Riley, DeWitt, Richard municipal drain loan be now read a third time, finally passed, signed, and sealed, and number 2018-48.
Okay, so I'm going to call for third reading unless there's discussion. Hearing none. Those in favor? Motion is carried. So just before I move on, just for the, again, so folks here will know, so the township has a number of municipal drains. We're responsible for the administration, I'm going to say, of those drains. We're also responsible to some extent for the maintenance of them when maintenance is called for. So in this particular case, the work was done a number of years ago, I think originally around the $600,000 mark. You as taxpayers don't pay that. The benefiting farmers pay for the work on the municipal drain. The council upfronts the money and borrows the money, and the farmers or the landowners that are in the drain area pay the council back, and council pays the loan off. In this particular case, the loan was a 5-year loan. Well, let me put it this way, it's a 10-year loan amortized loan. The amortization period was 10 years, but we took it for 5. And so it's up for renewal. And because it's up for renewal, it has to go back through the council process again. So we're just renewing it, not at the original amount, of course, the original amount less all the payments that have been made. And so we've done third reading, and that's, the staff will execute on that loan. And so then item number 11E is a gift of property for Lambert Street. Councillor Barrett.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Morale, that the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to transfer property known as 422 Lambert Street, Cardinal, from George Music to the Township of Edwardsburg, Cardinal, and this shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
Okay, it isn't very often that council gets this kind of a way out of a problem. But I'm going to call, first of all, any discussion here? Okay, I'm going to call for first and second motion, the voting on first and second reading. Those in favor? So that's carried unanimously. It can proceed to third reading.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Morale, that a bylaw to transfer property known as 422 Lambert Street, Cardinal, from George Music to the Township of Edwardsburg, Cardinal, be now read a third time and finally passed, assigned, sealed, and numbered 2018-49.
Okay, I'm going to call for motion, or for vote on the third reading. Those in favor? Motion is carried. So, again, just by way of explanation, this is a long-standing issue in the village of Cardinal where a garage was built partially on township property and partially on land that the township didn't own. And over a period of years, it was converted from a garage to a not quite dwelling because it had no sewer and no water. And it has become a real problem because it doesn't meet the standards for anything. And after a period of time of working with the owner, he finally decided that he would just give it to the township, and our recommendation from our staff is that we just demolish the structure, clean the property, and put this problem behind us. And that's what council has just approved, that action with the approval of this bylaw. So now I'm on to item 11F, which is the adoption of minimum maintenance standards. Councillor Smale.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Taylor, that the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to adopt minimum maintenance standards for highways under municipal jurisdiction, and this shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
Okay, first and second reading, discussion if any. Hearing none, those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. It can proceed to third reading.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Taylor, that a bylaw to adopt minimum maintenance standards for highways under municipal jurisdiction be now read a third time, final pass, signed, and sealed, and numbered 2018-50.
Okay, I'm going to call a question on third reading. Those in favor? Motion is carried. So again, just by way of explanation, so you know what's going on, the various provincial organizations develop a set of standards to which we must maintain our roads during the winter time and our sidewalks from snow blowing, snow plowing, etc. The importance of council accepting and by bylaw those minimum maintenance standards is the following. If we have a person slip and fall on a sidewalk, or if we have a car accident as a result of heavy snow load on the street, our defense, if we're sued, our defense is, but Your Honor, we maintain that street to the minimum maintenance standards required by the province. And we did our due diligence by maintaining it to that. And we have GPSs in our snow plows and on all of our plows so that we know the date and time that streets were plowed and sidewalks were plowed. And we know that we're meeting our maintenance standards after every snow event and during the summertime for grading, etc. So the adoption of the minimum maintenance standards, which council has just approved, is our last line of defense in the courtroom, if I can put it that way. That's how we save you money. Okay, so now I'm on item number 12, because we have not had a successful lawsuit in quite some period of time, I believe, if I'm right.
That's right.
We've been able to defend ourselves, several small ones.
Why did you say that aloud?
Well, because we're doing our due diligence. Okay, I'm on item 12 on the agenda, which is the CAO's administrative update. So I'll turn it over to the CAO and let her discuss her update, and then if she leaves any blanks, the council will come back and ask questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know one of the properties that council's been interested in is the, one of the vacant lots that were sold in the industrial park. And I wanted to advise you that we did meet with the owner today and reviewed his development plans. They are well underway. He had a slight issue with an engineering firm that he had hired and then had to no longer utilize. So he's now working with Eastern Engineering, which is good because it's a local firm and they understand our processes very well. He is well on his way to applying for a site plan control agreement. He will be looking for a minor variance as he would like his new building to be a little higher than what's currently allowed under the zoning.
Well, that's good news.
We are looking for a replacement bylaw enforcement contractor. We have been advertising, and certainly if anyone knows anyone who has an interest or an aptitude, we'd be delighted to speak to them because Jonathan's last day is coming up quicker than I like. A couple of additions to our meeting schedules, not truly meetings, but the Great Waterfront Trail, as you know, is a bicycle tour that comes through our region every summer, and they will be stopping in Cardinal on August 2nd between 9:30 and 11 in the morning. It's just a water stop, so we're going to set up at the Cenotaph Park in Cardinal and provide water and a little snack, and maybe the township can to anybody who stops in for refreshment there. Also, in addition to this, is the Rideau St. Lawrence Utilities Annual General Meeting. It's August 8th in Westport, and their financial statements are in your mailboxes for light reading.
Right.
Always very interesting.
Everything else is pretty much underway, except I'd be very remiss if I didn't advise you that the treasurer today finished the 2017 financial information return. Yay!
Thank you very much.
There was $3 in question that took all morning to.
On a $7 million budget.
So that's good. There is a tax sale coming up. There are 2 residential properties in Cardinal that will be for sale by tender, unfortunately closing August 15th, so I'm sure you may have seen advertising. If not, you will. Mentioned before, we are reviewing accessibility concerns at the Cardinal Pool. The permanent and long-term solution will be concrete steps. We're trying to find a temporary fix for the remainder of this season. I know also that the use of the Cardinal Library space for TR Leger was something that we discussed. TR Leger has now advised us that they don't wish to pay any rent on that property. So we've suggested they should put their concerns in writing, and council will discuss it further at the next facilities committee meeting. We've also suggested that they already own the building in Cardinal that they might want to make use of.
Might be short discussion.
Might be. Anyway, everything is going along sort of the way we would expect. We are working with South Nation. In fact, the Director of Operations had a meeting this afternoon, a telephone meeting, to discuss funding applications to get berm in place around the water treatment plant. We are also hard at work on our next OCIF application for the County Road 2 water and sewer project. We're focusing on the water side of it, and we have asked our consultant who is providing us with the asset management roadmap to give us a hand to review the application and make sure it meets all the requirements of the provincial government. So that went to them today, and we expect to hear back from them in fairly short order.
Forget what the deadline is for that application.
Is it August 3rd? Sorry?
August 28th.
28th, August
August
28th. Yeah. I was gonna say 31st, but that's the deadline for taxes. The annual emergency exercise is scheduled now for August 29th in Mallory Town. So there is the community control group would be expected to attend that, which includes the mayor, or in his absence, the deputy mayor, as well as some staff members.
That it?
That's all I have.
Okay, I have a hand here, Deputy Mayor Taylor.
The budget for the dock access, has there been any other, I know the divers, the divers checked their wall the last time we spoke
Yeah.
about the potential.
I haven't seen a report, have you, Mr.
Mr.
Mayor?
Chair, no, I anticipate that the report has been mailed out. We should be in receipt of it within the next week or so.
Okay, can that stay a line item in the facilities recreation box there, just so we keep abreast of what's?
Sure, I'm sorry, I think you
Please
asked
let
that
it ring.
last time and I
Yeah.
forgot.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Councilor Morel.
Just, I want to commend again, as I always do, I look forward to these monthly reports. They are a refresher and a reminder in many ways, and they're also some new information that I find very appealing and so forth. And I see a lot of positives in the report, and I do have some questions, like under economic development, a new company or group, Purple Farm. I'm not familiar with that group, that name. Where are they located? I guess
That's through you, Mr. Chair, that's the firm that is developing the land in the industrial park that was sold.
oh, they're called
called
Purple Farm.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, Purple.
We've always seen them
Purple
as a
Farm.
member company
Okay.
Yes,
before.
that's right.
All right,
Purple Farm was
okay,
on the
thank you.
map.
Thank you kindly for that. And as we move on, 7:30 truck stop, you have a memo for that. And the last time we met, all the i's weren't dotted and t's crossed. But I see in your last comment, in your report, it says the property has been sold and the municipality is in a good position for recovery of the monies owing and so forth. So I was very positive to see that. The other, when we go down to operations, public works, tenders there, I was brought to mind about 4 years ago, well, maybe it's longer than that, I wasn't 40 years here as this council, but the previous council, we had a discussion with regard to propane supply and so forth. At that time, we were concerned about the propane supply, and that's when the prices went up and there was a lack of supply, and I think there were on occasions that the township municipal office did not, ran out and was hard done by. And I recall at the time, the mayor, at the time, well, who was councillor then, but our present mayor, and late Councillor Ball suggesting they had good suppliers for propane, but we went out to tender, and now three names, Levesque, Lind, and Superior keep coming back to me. So I'm assuming Superior, was it Superior we went with previously? And they the previous one, and now we're going with Levesque. Levesque, okay, so is this the one that was there before when we had when they ran out of supply?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, indeed, Levac was the supplier when we ran out, but I would point out that it wasn't just us, it was propane shortage across the region. I suspect that that's why we got such a favorable return on this tender.
Okay, all right.
They want the
okay.
business
So
back.
it hurts, okay, so I guess we made a good call then indirectly. So, and the other, I just want to ask about the Prescott wastewater. I see the most recently scheduled meeting was canceled and rescheduled to September. I'm just wondering, are there any surprises there that, that we haven't had regular progress updates or any surprises coming
Do you mean,
with
were we
budget-wise?
surprised that they canceled it?
Well, no, that wasn't a surprise, but I guess any surprises, with the
I was
numbers
shocked.
and so forth, at all, that we were getting regular updates and stuff number-wise, or no?
We did receive the flow rates finally for the first half of 2018, which are about on par with what we've seen in the past. We're not seeing any surprises there. I really don't have a good answer for you.
Okay, all right, thank
I'm
you.
not aware of any problem.
Thank you.
So can I pick up on your question? I did see a reference to the flow rates. We've purchased X numbers of cubic meters per month or per year.
No, that's on the water side, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, that's right.
On the wastewater side, we have a
10%.
percentage.
Yeah, so, I haven't seen the flow rates, but you're saying that the flow rates are within their normal usage?
Running right around 6%.
Right around 6%,
6%.
okay, all right, so that's pretty much where we anticipated that they'd be.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the CAO? I just wanted to draw one thing to council's attention. So on the upcoming meeting schedule, we have a meeting scheduled for Monday, August the 20th. It's Councillor Barrett's Public Works meeting. So I'll be in Ottawa at the AMO conference on that date. I'll be absent on that date. I'll explain that right now. And I'm just looking, I had one or two other questions here. One was the flow rates, which we've already addressed. The other was CR Ledger. So that's it. Those are my questions. So, if there's nothing else with the CAO's report, I'm going to thank the CAO for her report. It's always a good report. As Councilor Morrell says, always brings things kind of together at the end of the month. Okay, so now I'm going on to item number 13, which is council inquiries.
Sorry, I believe there's a motion.
Oh, there is a motion? Sorry.
It's me, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, it
It's
is.
moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Barrett that municipal council receives the CAO's administrative report as presented.
Okay, those in favor? Motion is carried. All right, now we're on council inquiries or notices of motion, and you wanted to speak, Councilor Smith.
To you, so I've kind of thrown something together here real quick. I will be looking for a seconder, I believe I have it, but I'll read it out first, just to be sure. The council support the Johnstown ATV Club in the altering of the trail network, which would include road use on Crowder, I believe, correct? Yep, okay, just wanted to make sure that. To connect trails as well as additions to the trail, such as bridge to cross large water areas on property owned by the township. Okay, so I have a seconder, Mr. Barrett. Yep. Okay, so I've chicken scratched it on here, I apologize. I can rewrite it for you after if you want. If you can even
Okay,
read it.
so the chair is looking for a bit of direction here. So I have a mover and a seconder, but we're at notices of motion. I believe that I have under the procedural bylaw, I'll defer to the staff here. Under the procedural bylaw, it's not an emergency motion, but do I have the flexibility to deal with this motion at this meeting, or does it have to serve as notice of motion for the next meeting?
Under the procedural bylaw, it should serve as notice of motion for the next meeting, but I would suggest that it might be wise to defer voting on this motion until Public Works meeting, at which time staff will have an opportunity to take a quick look at what's required on that road allowance that they may use as an alternative.
Okay, so in other words, we'll treat it as a notice of motion for the purposes of this meeting, and it'll come forward at PW.
August 20th,
Okay.
with Councilor Barrett's.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I'll call it notice of motion then to come forward. And so now, I'm moving on. And the next item on the agenda is the mayor's report. I have a few things.
So we made the motion for you.
Sure, that way we won't forget
Moved
to
by
do.
myself, seconded by Councilor Smale, that the municipal council receives the mayor's report as presented.
So I won't call that motion until after I've dealt with the report. So, a number of things. First of all, there's a lot of requests both at the county council level and on other sources that we make an effort to do a little bit more outreach and publicity about Lyme disease and the danger posed by ticks. And quite a serious disease if you happen to contract it from a tick. Matter of fact, I have an next-door neighbor who is almost completely disabled because of Lyme disease that she contracted about 3 years ago. And there are more and more of these kind of stories coming along. So I just want to flag that as an issue in the mayor's report. And I would ask the staff, there is some promotional material that's produced by the province of Ontario. And if you could get copies of it and have it available here in the office and use whatever efforts we have to disseminate it to the public. So that's the first thing. Now the 7:30 truck stop, I just wanted to pick up, Councilor Morrell already referred to it, but I just want to say for the benefit of the gallery here, We did have a special meeting on July the 19th, Wednesday, July the 19th. The minutes are in today's package. But basically, the 730 truck stop is in the position where the receiver has received an offer to purchase, and that offer to purchase has been accepted. So in contract law, offer plus acceptance is a contract, but it doesn't get executed until the deal closes. So there were a number of conditions, or at least one that we know of, on the offer. So council met on Wednesday, July the 19th, 18th rather, special meeting to deal with the condition that affected, or yes, I'm going to say affected the township. And as a result of the meeting that we held that morning, we passed the motion that would help the receiver waive that condition. We don't know at this point who's made the offer, and we don't know at this point what the closing date for the sale is. But we're doing whatever we can to help this process along and get a new owner in that property. Now I'm going to turn to the CAO just quickly, if I could, because I understand that there were some Committee of Adjustment meetings this morning. Are you allowed to report on that?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Yes, there were two Committee of Adjustment or minor variance hearings this morning. One to deal with actually Deputy Mayor Taylor's property, wherein the frontage, I believe, was being reduced slightly as a result of a severance. The second one was to do with the Griffin Engineering building up here on County Road 21, wherein they had an additional use that they wanted that would be considered accessory to the uses that are permitted. But unfortunately, our zoning bylaw doesn't say and uses accessory to that, so we had to get a minor variance there as well.
Okay, so again, for folks that are here that may not have read a number of places, the former Grenville Mutual Insurance building has been sold to Griffin Engineering, a very small, very niche engineering firm that's moving their entire operation and 7 employees from Ottawa. And not only they're moving their firm, but most of their employees are going to move to our township as well. And so they needed a small little change in our permitted uses in that zone, and that's been addressed here at the Committee of Adjustment this morning. Also coming forward from counties, and we had a delegation at counties that wanted to speak to counties about fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. And they're basically asking council to declare September the 9th as Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder Awareness Day. So I've given the information that was presented at United Counties to the Deputy Clerk, and that motion will come forward, I guess, at the August meeting. I just want to say a little bit to council and the gallery concerning the construction project at the junction of County Road 2 and County Road 16. The T-junction where County Road 16 joins joins or meets County Road 2. So first of all, it's 2 county roads, it's a junction of 2 county roads, but the construction project is not a county construction project. County, as the owner of the road, has given authorization for a third party to do some adjustments to that curvature. And I'm talking about the curvature where the southbound trucks go down the ramp and merge onto County Road 2. They merge to the right on County Road 2. The project is basically a Giant Tiger project. Giant Tiger is paying the full cost. They hired an engineering firm to do the design. County approved the design. Giant Tiger, I believe, hired the contractor. I don't know whether we approved or county approved the contractor. We may not have had anything to do with that aspect of it. But we have no say in the administration of the contract or the oversight of the contract. However, what was originally scheduled to be a 5-week project has now stretched into about 10 or 15 weeks. And this past weekend, I want council to know, created a multitude of problems for 5 of the residents on that County Road 2 stretch. Now this whole mess will be the subject of a high-level meeting that will take place at the United Counties on Wednesday at 10 o'clock. And because Deputy Mayor Taylor and I spent most of the weekend dealing with the 5 property owners. Well, a representative of the 5 property owners will attend that meeting. But I just want you to know that as a result of the issues that have been raised, we now have the schedule for the final completion of that project no later than July 31st, crossing our fingers. Also want council to know that on Thursday, July the 19th, I had a meeting with representatives of the Upper Canada District School Board concerning the sale of the Benson School. That project has, the building has basically been declared surplus to board needs, but it hasn't yet been placed up for public sale. So I was interested to find out from the trustees what was happening, and suffice it to say that before the board can proceed to the final sale level, and I'll just review, they've gone through the steps of offering it to all the provincial ministries and federal ministries. Then they've come down to the municipal level and they've offered it at the municipal level, and we were in and we were out. And now it goes to the public for sale, but before it can go to the public for sale, the school board needs final approval from the province, and that approval has not been forthcoming. Go ahead.
In receiving that information, has anyone had the opportunity to just maybe draw to the school board's attention, what would I call it, that it's insane that we have a building that is surplus to the needs of the school board, but they want a space in our library that they don't want to pay for to run an education program, and they're also using space at our arena for an early years program, but they didn't have a use for the building. Is there an opportunity for us to express that perhaps there's a need for them to get their ducks in a row?
Okay, so let me go back one step.
Yeah.
The Ontario Early Years Program is basically a county program. The county sponsors it and pays for it.
100%?
100%, yeah. Now, I don't know whether they're paying us anything, I doubt it, there's 2 half days a week or something. But, going to your larger picture, at the time that I met with those 2 folks, I wasn't aware of the J.R. Leger request, so I didn't have an opportunity to point that out to them. But, you know, I did have an opportunity to point out to them that there might be a reason that the province was delaying final approval. But mostly I was interested to hear it from their point of view, why they weren't proceeding. And the reason is that before they can proceed to the public, to solicit offers from the public, they have to have that final approval from the ministry. So, I mean, you just have to take that for what it's worth.
And maybe if you do have that opportunity, also include that I see on Facebook and people tell me that there's people looking for childcare spots, and you know, the province certainly has the capacity to run licensed childcare. So it's very odd to me that they felt it necessary to close the school. And
Well, talking about childcare, I mean, just in response to your bringing that up, the province has money for 444 additional childcare spaces. The money was given to them in 2018 to be used in the 2019 budget year. I had no less than 6 different meetings with a number of folks trying to determine if we had use for additional childcare spaces in Edwardsburg Cardinal. And I pointed specifically at Spencerville, the school, and Johnstown, there's a childcare operating there, and I dealt with a number of folks that are operating childcare facilities in Cardinal. And the long and the short of it is I've got nobody coming to me saying we have a need. I can't believe it. I can't believe it, but people are saying we don't see the need for childcare spaces. And I don't understand it, but I can't do anything else but deal with the information that I'm getting. It's unbelievable to me. But, you know, because there are a number of people here, I've written about it twice in my mayor's columns, and the money is there. And I know from our discussions at joint services that the staff is having a hard time placing that child care money. They're gonna be hard pressed to find 444 spaces to subsidize in starting January the 1st.
Licensed spaces? Or-
Yes.
Yeah, licensed.
Yeah, they all have to be licensed.
Yeah, I think
And they
that-
all have to be, what's the term? Subsidized?
Yes.
Yeah, subsidized, yeah,
I think that's probably, that is the licensing component is the hang-up.
yeah.
Yeah, that's-
If they took the focus off of institutionalizing the children, they'd probably fill those a lot faster.
Yeah, and that's mandated by the province, as you
Yeah.
know, we just, we get the
Oh, I
money,
know, but
we're
it's-
obligated to
that's
deliver
the
the
issue right
program.
there, I can guarantee it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, if there are no further questions, I'm about to call for the vote on receiving the mayor's report. Those in favor? Motion is carried. And now I'm on to item number 15 on the agenda, which is the question period. Are there any questions, folks? So, gentlemen from the ATV Club, you're first.
Thank you. First and foremost, I'd like to say thanks for your having the entire club in the room. But just to, well, first there's a comment and a question and then another comment. As Councillor Barrett brought up earlier, no, we have not been in touch with Winans. This only got put on our plates about a week ago. We've already had a quick discussion about it in that the alternate route that we've discussed is so wet in a big pond that we need to put a bridge in. We feel it's probably best to put a bridge in winter when we can traverse the ice and do it. It's a long span. So yes, I would like to talk to Mr. Winans and see if, when the closing date perhaps is on all this. Does anybody know that now? I guess that would be my question.
Okay, so let's just stop there and I'll see if the staff can answer that part of the question.
Sure.
Do we know what the closing is?
The intent of a road closure and conveyance is that there be no cost to the municipality, so we are somewhat dependent on Mr. Winans getting a survey done of the road allowance. It can't be transferred until the survey's finished.
That could take a while.
I understand it's underway, but I can't tell you how soon.
Okay. So I guess essentially my last comment is we will go ahead and approach him and see how long we can use that for. Because literally the other bypass that we do use is only winter use only. So if we could just sort of finish this season on what is now his property, that would be beneficial to us. And then of course, yes, we will approach you again and ask for a couple more roads, just small stretches, basically on Crowder. So that being said, we appreciate you hearing us and we accept your decisions and we will move forward and go with Plan B.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Glad we were able to answer part of the question.
Well, as I say, I know these things don't take, it won't happen tomorrow. But I mean, if we could easily, still use that road allowance, because as I mentioned in my letter, we do join up the Nation Valley and over in the Winchester area. It's a very important route in the summer. So
thank you very much for coming and thank you very much for bringing your club with you.
My treat.
Appreciate it. Appreciate seeing you all.
thank you very much.
Are there any other questions here this evening? If not, I'm about to proceed on the agenda. Item number 16 on the agenda is a closed session. We have no closed session here this evening. Item number 17 on the agenda is the confirmation bylaw. Councillor Barrett will ask you for that bylaw.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Morley, move to be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution and this shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
First and second reading, those in favor? Motion is carried and carried unanimously. Can proceed to third reading.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Morley, that a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 2018-5.
Okay, and third reading, those in favor? Motion's carried. So again, just by way of explanation, the law says that council only acts by bylaw. And during the meeting, we passed a number of resolutions. So this bylaw gives all those resolutions the status of a bylaw. And so now we'll proceed to the last item on the agenda, which is adjournment, and Councillor Smale.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Taylor. Municipal Council does now adjourn at 7:41 PM.
Thank you very much. Those in favor? Motion is carried. And I'd like to thank everyone for coming and appreciate your interest.